What up, nation? Welcome to another edition, the last edition of 2019 anyway, of the WiseTake NBA strategy game-by-game breakdown, if you will, aka the projection show. That's what a lot of you have been calling it. I've been hearing some positive feedback, DMs, everything else. People like the show. A lot of people calling it the projection show. My name is CK013. You can find me on Twitter at CK_013. And of course, I'm from the WiseTake Nation, which you can find at WiseTake.com. We are a premium DFS content provider as well as a DFS community designed to help make you a better DFS player. You can follow the WiseTake Nation on Twitter at Wise_Take, on Instagram and Facebook at WiseTake without the underscore. Come join the nation. We are a community. We are DFS grinders. Let's stay grinding. And we're all here to make the money. With that said, hope you all have a happy new year. I'm just going to put that out there so I don't forget. I'm going to say it again at the end. I wanted to say it at the end, but sometimes I forget to say stuff, so I figured I'd say it at the beginning. As usual, we're going to go game by game on this small slate. Shouldn't take too long. The projections we'll be looking at are the WiseTake Nation projections, which are the projections that I use, my projections that I put up on the site for the WiseTake Nation subscribers. And you do get access with day passes for that as well. So it's early in the day. It's about 1:50 p.m. Eastern. We're starting to get some news. I haven't adjusted for really anything. I've kind of just updated the projections and went rolling. So we'll go through here, talk about what needs to be adjusted. We'll go game by game, starting with the road teams, and really look at and see what teams are popping off the best projection-wise, what teams could be, should they're given news that we're waiting for come in. So if you're new to the channel, welcome. Please subscribe. Hit the notifications bell so you are notified whenever we do go live on the channel. We do all kinds of free DFS content. We do a lot of streaming here. And don't forget to check out our flagship show right here on the YouTube channel, which is the NBA Wise stream. Basically, we do a position by position quick breakdown at the beginning. We start about an hour and 15 minutes before lock, and we take you all the way up to lock, leading you into lock, trying to keep everybody updated with news and everything else. So appreciate those of you who are subscribed and continue to support the nation and watch the nation. As always, we ask that you all hit the like button. Likes go a long way, allow us to continue to do the dirty. So if you could hit the like button, the likes go a long way, really help us out, allow us to continue to do all the content we do for free and continue to do it for free. So nothing better than free. Hit that like button and let's get it. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into this. I haven't looked at this much. I did the core 4 yesterday. I know Golden State stood out. I'm sure they will again. Maybe different players now that we got some news. Last night doing the core 4 was weird because there was a lot of news we're waiting for. So even though there are a lot of good plays, if they're not playing, it's hard for me to, it's like the worst thing that can happen is and even in the first look, you're like, on to players that aren't playing. So we'll take a look. As always, we'll be looking for the thin teams, the code in DFS, as long as the prices make sense. Let's go ahead and dig into this. So first up, we got the Cleveland Cavaliers. Visiting the Toronto Raptors. Total in this game is currently 218, which is the third lowest. So it's not the lowest, but it's close. Toronto currently 9.5-point favorites at home. So let's take a look at the Cleveland side. They're the road team. We got Love projected for around 31.75, roughly 32 minutes. Not a terrible projection on either side, really. It's not going to give you, as of right now, it's not looking like we're going to give you a ton of him, but you'll get some, I think, if you set some caps and some boundaries on your optimizer, whatever you use. Love and Thompson would be the main two guys I'd be looking at. I do think with Clarkson out of the picture, Sexton and Darius Garland, like their minutes may have gotten more secure. Maybe we see over time some of the other guys pick up some of that slack. But the second unit use is just kind of wide open. I'd be willing to play more Kevin Porter if I felt like he was guaranteed to get more minutes, but we haven't really seen a direct correlation just yet. So I think right now it would be Love and Thompson. I don't love the Cleveland side, obviously. Love and Thompson are the main two, and then I guess Sexton you could work in. I think that the minutes have been there, right? This is a guy that they've always played a ton of minutes. Earlier this year, they kind of got away from that for a little bit. With Clarkson gone, they still need that guard presence. So I think they're interesting. Garland is at least cheap. I just don't love the situation for Cleveland. I just don't love it. There's some value. You could try Cedi Osman. Cleveland's a team I really only look to when somebody key is out. Like key, not Clarkson getting traded. I mean, like if Love is out, Thompson's out, something key. I don't know. With all the even on a 4-game slate, I'm just not terribly interested in the Cleveland side. But Kevin Love, I think for tournaments makes sense. He could, he's got the upside, and he's trying to get traded to a good team. With that said, we'll look at their opponents, the Toronto Raptors. Again, these projections, guys, I update them throughout the day. Even while I'm on the Y stream later going into lock, I'm still updating them as we get news. These are the projections that I use as well. I do set certain exposures. You can download our projections at WiseTake.com if you're subscribed, if you're a member. You can upload them to whatever optimizer you want to use. I personally use Fantasy Cruncher, but you can upload the projections in any projection you want to use. With that said, so Terrence Davis looking like a pretty good value play on FanDuel, 3,900. That could be pretty valuable on a site that always kind of pushes you to be stars and scrubsy. Same thing with Ibaka. Ibaka, oddly enough, I think they played Boston twice and should have been a spot where he smashed. It didn't work out that way. I understand blowouts were involved, which could have changed how things went down. But against Cleveland with guys like Thompson and Love, I would think Ibaka is in line to get a pretty healthy dose of minutes. So maybe that 32-minute mark is more stable than it was leading into. But as you can see on FanDuel, regardless, at 7K, Ibaka is much more friendly. 5.3 goes a lot further on FanDuel typically than it does on DraftKings. So just keep in mind when you see the numbers on DraftKings, because the DraftKings pricing is typically softer. VanVleet and Lowry, their minute projections around 37. That's probably conservative. As banged up as they are, these two guys are barely leaving the court. So I think because it's a small slate and we may want to get some action on those two guys, being that it is a phenomenal matchup against Cleveland, guards against Cleveland is just money. I do think maybe we'll raise the minute projections on VanVleet and Lowry. I would imagine that's, it might not even change a ton because of how expensive they are, but I do think we want to find ways to work them in. I mean, there's only 4 games. You're working with 150 teams, hypothetically, I know I am. You're going to want some shares of these guys. They're playmakers. So Ibaka, VanVleet, Lowry, the mainstays. OG Anunoby has been a little disappointing to me. When all those injuries happened, I really thought he was going to step it up. We haven't really seen that. But his price is 5K. His minutes haven't been as high as I thought they would be because they've been playing McCall and these other situations. I'm not interested in McCall personally, for those of you who are curious. But yeah, OG is a guy that I kind of got on my radar. I'd love to crank him up. If I thought OG was going to play that there, but he brought it on himself. He's been playing like shit. He's not really, not really getting the job done, even though they're hurting for, guys to kind of step up without Siakam and some of the injuries they have. But yeah, I mean, Boucher, 150 teams, you want to work him in there. Boucher is like if the Ibaka gets in foul trouble scenario, or if Ibaka gets hurt, or maybe the second unit is just rolling, then, Boucher is kind of that guy, but not a guy I would recommend having a lot of exposure to because it's not a high probability play. Not that he's a high point per minute player. It's just the minutes. Him playing over 20 minutes or him playing like 25 minutes, something significant at that price. That's not a, likely play, I guess. Rondae Hollis-Jefferson only projected for 16 minutes. I wonder what he did. Let's take a look at this. I'm curious because, I mean, as far as I see, they need the help. Yeah, Hollis-Jefferson played 3 minutes against Oklahoma City. 6 fouls in 19 minutes against Boston the second time. In the first game, he only played 18 anyway. So he seems to be just not doing it. Boucher, 19 minutes against OKC, 16 against Boston. The game before got 28, and the second unit was playing better. I mean, I guess that's what's making Terrence Davis pop is he's the one against Oklahoma City. Terrence Davis did get 27 minutes. He's not like an extremely high point per minute player, but he is. I mean, yeah, even OG's minutes, 26, 15, 25. Like, I don't even know. We're going to have to dig on this and see what's going on with Toronto because we got it right here. Let's look at the game flows. Lowry played 38. McCall played 36, so he is soaking up a lot of the minutes. OG didn't even close in that last game against OKC. Ibaka played 33. Boucher got 19. Terrence Davis 26. For a team that's thin, they're finding ways. They're playing certain guys max minutes, but they're finding ways around it. I think that OG I'll work in for some tournament exposure, but the main guys are the main 3 here, right? Ibaka, Lowry, VanVleet. Those are the main guys we're sticking with. And again, Terrence Davis on FanDuel goes a little bit further with a $3,900 price tag. Get him. Next up, we've got the Golden State Warriors visiting the San Antonio Spurs. We have a 217 total. It's actually down from 220. So initially, they opened up at a total that was tied with Denver-Houston, but now the Houston total's gone up 3 points, and the Spurs total's gone down 3 points, maybe because this line could have been out before the D-Lo news. Probably because the Spurs opened up 9, they're up to minus 11 at home, so that's probably what happened. Big spread, total drop a little bit. We know Golden State's got a lot of injuries. Let's take a look. Got a lot of injuries. All right. So this is the team that I'm going to end up with a lot of. I know I am. Just a matter of what players. And feels somewhat questionable, I guess. OG don't deserve to be OG. Nicholas Lynn said that in the chat. OG don't deserve to be OG. I agree. But that's a hard name to back up. Like, if that's your actual name, you got to be OG everywhere you go. It's kind of hard to live up to. Randy, I'm not going to do the 2-game slate. We're doing the main slate today. That's it. Are the projections at WiseTake.com actually have the 2-game slate in there? Like, it's embedded in there the all day, so if you upload them, you could use them. But as far as this show, we're going to stick with the main slate, Randy. All right, going back to it, Golden State, Chalk City, but for good reason. Starting off with Marquise Chris, the obvious. No Willie Cauley-Stein, no Kevon Looney. I would imagine Marquise Chris gets at least an opportunity, not even if he gets... I'm not saying he's going to, I don't think there's a scenario where he's going to play all the minutes in the world as much as we'd like. But he's a guy that was already kind of in the rotation. He's a high point per minute player typically. It's a good matchup for him, soft matchup. The only issue, of course, is foul trouble. Marquise Chris had a history of that in Phoenix, getting into foul trouble. Hasn't really been as bad here, but it's definitely a possibility, especially if they're expecting him to play more minutes than he's normally expected to play. Bam. Get that one out. So yeah, Marquise Chris, we're going to end up with a lot of on both sides. It's just not, it's going to happen. If you want to go underweight, it's your decision. Christian Wood going underweight on him was the right move yesterday. He kind of dudded, but that's not a situation I'm going to bet against too many times. So if I lose here or there because of it, I'm willing to do that. And that's pretty much how I feel about Marquise Chris against the Spurs, who are really, really bad. So figuring out where he's going to be owned, going to be massive, I would imagine. As you can see, projecting for 6.88x on 24.75 minutes, which is for him a whole lot more than he's used to, and 7.21 on FanDuel, which is pretty clutch there. Kai Bowman is not on the injury report. The last night I wanted to mention him in the core 4. I couldn't because he was questionable. I wasn't sure if he was going to play. We now know he's going to play. I would expect him to see at least the 25 minutes he's projected for. On DraftKings, it's hard to walk away from a guy that's 3,100 and projecting for 6.63x, even though it was only 20.5 raw points. On FanDuel, it's not as pretty. He's 37 over there, but still 3,700. He's still projecting for 5.49x, which is enough, I think, on FanDuel where you should get a pretty good amount if you run this, I believe. But hard to argue against both of them. The Spurs are not good defensively, especially at point guard, especially at center. That's the main two spots. So it definitely seems with no D'Angelo Russell, there's some usage to go around, some minutes to pick up for the guards, some shots to take for guys like Bowman. With no Cauley-Stein, with no Kevon Looney, there's more center minutes to pick up for guys like Chris. So those two do seem like they belong, in that ownership category, right? And we have Harden, we have Luka. The price for Harden is crazy low. We'll talk about that. But we have guys we can use, that we can spend the money, that we could use the value for. That's basically what I'm trying to say. Alec Burks I do like on both sides. On FanDuel, he's not projecting as well. We got him projected for 29 minutes. That could be on a little bit on the conservative end. I think there's a world where he plays a little bit more than that, and somewhere in the 30s. If the game is close, if it's not, maybe not. But I do like Burks. I think his price is fair. And again, I think if we raise him up to he's like almost right on a point per minute, like very, very close. So we raise him. If we plays 30 minutes, you would expect him to give you a 30 back, which is really, what you're hoping for as a floor if you play him. But the usage should be there. They're going to need guys to pick up shots. I think it makes a lot of sense. I like Alec Burks. I'll be, like I said, I'll be playing a lot of Warriors today. It's just thin teams. They're missing a lot of people. Look at all those zeros at the bottom. Eric Paschall, 3,400. I'm not sure. He wasn't playing at 10 as is. Maybe there's some room for him now. I know he's been dealing with a banged up hip. He's very cheap. So, and as you can see on DraftKings, if he gets 21 minutes, he is projecting well for the 3-4. Not on a raw points basis. It may not give you a lot because, look at Kai Bowman, 6'6" versus Paschal 5.5, 8. And their actual raw point projection is only a point and a half off. That shows you how important it is when you get the cheap guys. 1 point makes all the difference. But maybe we can work in some Paschal. Nothing more than a risky dart. We have nothing that's telling us, even with D'Lo out, even with the injuries, there's nothing that's really telling us for sure he's going to pick up extra. But I think he may, especially if he plays well while he's on the court. Because again, they're going to need people to score. Paschal, that's pretty much all he does is shoot. And if they have to slide Draymond up to the 1, it's going to open up some minutes for somebody to slide out to the 4. So whether it's him or someone else, it could happen. Glenn Robinson's going to be, he's another one that should sit there. I think he's a fine value play. He's not a super high usage player, but we don't really need him to be in this scenario, I don't think. I would expect him to play even more than those 32 minutes. Maybe if the game gets out of hand, maybe not. Damian Lee, 31.5 seems conservative. Especially with no Lee, D'Angelo Russell, and missing bodies, and I don't know. I may be a little bit of a homer for this dude at this point, but I mean he's got 33 minutes, 36 minutes, 31 minutes, right, over his last 3 games, 28, 35, 25, and most of those are all with D'Lo, right, D'Angelo Russell. So you take a guy like Russell who plays big minutes and has a massive usage rate. You got to figure all these guards are going to pick up a couple extras. So I think that minute projection is low. And I think we're going to raise it as something more aggressive. Not necessarily making Lee project phenomenally to where it's going to jam a ton of them in there. But I think he is a guy I want some of, man. Like he's playing the Spurs. Good matchup for rebounding. Good matchup for everything. Damian Lee is a big peripheral guy. You don't even need the usage as much. His usage rate isn't terrible. 19, 20, 20, 18. It's not terrible. But it's like the rebounds, right? He's got those double-digit rebounds. So I like him a little bit more on DraftKings if I'm going to pay this high price for him because of the double-double potential. He is a good rebounder. I mean, you can make the same argument on FanDuel with the steals, though. He does get steals. So it's interesting. But I'll end up with a lot of Spurs. Check out the projections later on today when I update them. I'm going to go through and make some updates. But I don't agree with all these minutes here. I'll have to make some changes. And definitely going to raise Damian Lee a little bit. Let's go to the other side. We got the San Antonio Spurs. Spurs City. So DeJounte Murray once again projecting well. He's a very high per minute player. The issue is you don't really know how many minutes he's going to get. So projecting him for around 28 is fair, but he could play 25, 26. He could play as high as 31, 32. Never really know. It is a good matchup either way, I would imagine, against Golden State. Although I will admit Golden State has been playing a lot slower, and they've been playing a lot better defense lately. And the matchup probably isn't as good as D'Lo defense is just magic. So not going to get anything quite as good as that. But DeJounte Murray I'm okay with. Obviously, if I plan on getting a lot of exposure to the Golden State side, I'm going to end up with a decent amount of exposure of at least some of the players from here. Your initial instinct is going to push you towards DeRozan and Aldridge, and I still think I'd rather have those guys. We have them projected conservatively as well right now with 32 minutes apiece, basically, which I don't believe to be the case necessarily. I think they'll get more than that, all right? Like, I don't think that's exactly a hot take by any stretch, right? DeRozan played 32 minutes against Detroit in a blowout, 35 against Dallas. They blew out Memphis as well. That was 29. So he's played in a bunch of blowouts in between there. But I think if the game is close, which there is some concern, right? Golden State are 11-point underdogs here. But if the game stays close, maybe then they're like teetering. Like especially DeRozan at 7-1. DeRozan is like teetering. You raise his minutes up to 34, something like that, 34 change. And I think you end up with more of him in your teams. But as it is right now, they're kind of conservative. I will look at Murray, DeRozan, Aldridge, mainly DeRozan, Aldridge. I think I'll look at them real hard, especially because of the positions. Murray is going to be competing with like Russell Westbrook and Harden and Luka and all these other guys at his position. So that's really where I'm at the moment. I don't love the value on San Antonio. I think we have better value elsewhere, so I'm not trying to come here unless some injury opens up. But LMA's been playing amazing. Centers go destroy Golden State. It's a good spot for him. If Poto were to start, I'd be kind of interested, but I don't think he will because they don't have a big where they're going to force Poto to start. So when they don't, in a situation like this, they'll typically start LMA at the 5 because they can, and I think they will. Great spot for LMA. Also a good spot for DeRozan. More interested in the Golden State side. Also kind of interested in Murray. So that's where we're at there. Bam. 30s and 7s. All right, we got 2 games next. Left, we've got the Denver Nuggets visiting the Houston Rockets. Let's go to Denver. Holla. All right, so Rockets, Denver have a 223 total. That's up from 220. Line went from Rockets -2 to Rockets -4. I think a lot of that has to do with the Harden and Capella news that they will both play. You would think maybe Harden would be worth a lot more, but anyway, Vegas is what Vegas is. Starting on the Denver side, Denver is another one of those teams where they're a good team. They have a lot of players, and it could be any one of them that goes off. It's not always multiple of them, but if there was a situation for it to happen, I would think it would be a situation like this where they're being paced up pretty drastically by a team like Houston, and most of their prices outside of Jokic are all somewhere hovering around, affordability range. Now, I will say this. You can see here that Millsap, when we initially updated this, was ruled out. He's questionable now, so we'll have to come back and check that because these minutes are set for if he was out. So we'll have to come back and take a look if we get any information on that. So right out the gate, Jamal Murray, Will Barton, those are the main 2 guys that it's typically easier to make a decision on playing them, both because they both get good minutes. They both have fine usage, and their prices are somewhere in the mid-range. So lately I've been on a Barton kick. I lean a little bit more towards him. I'm okay with Murray, but Murray's floor, his ceiling makes his price way too low, but his floor makes his price seem too high. So it's kind of somewhere in the middle there. It's kind of annoying. I prefer Barton usually because Barton's main purpose in life is to score, is to find ways to score the basket. So I like playing players like that in fantasy. Jeremy Grant, 4,600 on DraftKings. Doesn't do a ton for me. I don't mind it, but I'm not like over the top heavy feeling like I have to prioritize it. I think that on FanDuel at 42, a lot more interesting, like a lot easier to click. I'm not saying I don't like Grant on DraftKings. I think I do consider him a pretty decent value play. But on FanDuel, looking a lot better. Don't love the fact that he may see some PJ Tucker defense. It's just not great. But we'll see. They may elect to use Tucker on somebody more active like a Barton or something like that. So we'll have to see. But interesting. I don't mind Jokic. If Millsap's out, I'd be a lot more interested in Jokic. In that last game, normally when Millsap's out, Jokic just goes nuts. But Michael Porter Jr. got the start, and he actually took a pretty good amount of usage while he was on the court, and Jokic didn't do a ton. So this is one where the news is going to be important, especially for guys like Mason Plumlee, Michael Porter Jr., and Malik Beasley, because those guys' minutes are directly tied to whether or not Millsap plays. Tied as in like significance of minutes, right? Porter got the start. Harris missed also in his last game, so we got to keep that in mind. It may not be the same situation. I think Harris is expected to play. Assuming that Millsap's the only one out, I'll give a boost to Jokic. You'll see Jokic projected well. And he's on the cusp of that. He's not far off. 31.75 minute projection is very conservative. But I'll raise it to be over the average if Millsap is out, because the usage is while he's on the court, his quality of minutes are better without Millsap. But I didn't like how it looked without Gary Harris on the court. All right. Certainly should be an interesting game. Let's go over to the next one. The next team, Houston Rockets. Let's do it. James Harden is projecting phenomenally. We got him projected for 32 minutes. That's obviously conservative, right? Like Harden plays minutes. At the time I set this, we weren't quite sure if he was playing or not. Now we know he's playing. I'll go back. I'm going to raise it. As you can see, on DraftKings at 10.5, his price is far too low. We haven't projected for 32 minutes as of now, and that's still bringing him a 5x return. So, and he's obviously a massive point per minute player. So Harden looks like a phenomenal play today. The price is way too low on DraftKings. On FanDuel, you could argue it's too low as well because of the way the pricing works over there with stars and scrubs. But on DraftKings, definitely a site where this guy you get bonuses for triple doubles, double doubles. You don't get penalized as hard for turnovers. And you get an extra half a point for a three-pointer. He's just ridiculously underpriced. So assuming that he's good to go, which he says he expects to play, he plans to play, I think Harden's going to be very popular tonight, and for good reason. Same argument for Capella. Centers have destroyed Jokic all year. And Capella, when he does play, gets big minutes. We'll have to see. Him and Harden are both dealing with injuries. That's why they missed the last game. But Capella is a heel. Harden, it's a toe. I don't know. Either way, those two guys, I would imagine, when we raise those minute projections, are going to project pretty well, especially James Harden at his price. Russell Westbrook, another one with a conservative minute projection. Again, just wasn't really sure what to do with the Harden news, but you can raise his as well. Harden and Westbrook are going to be a popular combo once again. I will say this, Denver, one of the better defensive teams out there, one of the slower paced teams out there, so just keep that in mind. But at this point, with everybody healthy, assuming everybody is healthy, it's really just Harden, Westbrook, Capella, and I would rank it Harden, Westbrook, Capella. Well, technically, I kind of want to go Harden, Capella, Westbrook, but I feel like that's irresponsible because Westbrook is cheap, has been playing better. But Harden's price, he should be the most popular still on the slate, assuming that he is confirmed fully ready to go. I say fully because I know he said he's going to play, but I would assume he's going to be full. So expect Harden to be popular, and expect him to, do the dirty and play full minutes, because if he's going to play, he's going to play. That's James Harden. That's what he does. As you can see, a lot of adjustments we have to make. That's why I like to kind of do this and point things out so we understand why guys are projected where they are and make a determination if you agree, right? So there's a lot we have to adjust. And we will right after the show. Last game, we've got the Dallas Mavericks visiting the Oklahoma City Thunder. This is now the second highest total game on the slate at 220, up from 218. Dallas opened up -1.5, they're up to -3.5. We heard Luka is probable. He had like an ankle injury or something. So it's interesting. Again, with Luka and Porzingis both, but mainly Luka, a very conservative minute projection. While we were waiting to hear the news, he's probable, so we'll raise it. So raw points wise, Luka's probably going to project higher, but point per hour, I would imagine Harden's going to have him beat. And it's going to be hard. Like, you'd have to really exaggerate in the projections to make that be the other way around. Harden's going to be the more optimal play, assuming they both play with no limitations. But Luka does have some like GPP merit. Now, it's going to be reversed on the sites. On FanDuel, I would expect Luka to be more popular. He's 10.8, where Harden is 11.5. On DraftKings, Luka is 11.6, Harden is 10.5. So it's interesting. I think one will be chalkier on the other side. My initial instinct, and I think everybody's stock answer, is going to be play the one who's cheaper on the site where he's cheaper. But it is interesting to kind of think about the dynamic. Luka Doncic potentially being lower owned, and he's like, even with Porzingis there, and now we got Hardaway out. There's just so much usage to go around. Tim Hardaway is out. I have to adjust that as well. So that could open up some things for maybe Seth Curry. Maybe we see Seth Curry get more run today. JJ Barea been started in that second half, didn't play much, but we'll have to analyze all this stuff with THJ out. But Seth Curry, Dorian Finney-Smith should be the main benefactors minutes wise. Maybe some DeLon Wright. But either way, I'm okay with Porzingis. Probably going to raise his minutes a little bit, but not much, so he's not going to project great for us. But we could end up with him just because of a lack of players on a 4-game slate, especially at that position. Luka is a decision you have to make. Harden or Luka. It's a tough one. On DraftKings, Luka will have lower ownership. On FanDuel, Luka's going to have higher ownership. So keep that in mind. Build accordingly. I like to be like when you're doing 150 teams, you're going to have some contrarian builds. You can be overweight on a situation that's lower, but you're going to want to be a little more, I think, of whatever's optimal. That would be my recommendation. It's more of a process thing over the course of the long run, over the course of a season. How many times am I right compared to how many times am I wrong? Approaching shit from a probability perspective rather than just, a sports fan making predictions. But yeah, Luka's a decision you have to make. We have a lot of value. I don't think it's going to be hard to reach him if you want him. And again, there's going to be more with THJ. You even have some on this very team, which we'll get into, some other time. On the other side, oops, I always do that. I don't know why I do that, but I do that. Who do that? I do that. OKC. So let's see. Gallinari. I know we have him tentatively projected in. Oops, don't want to do that. He's questionable. got a sore ankle and he's just missing a bunch of games. If he's out, obviously Chris Paul would end up projecting a lot better. Chris Paul is going to project a little better than this now. I think 30 minutes is too low. Adams will be a lot more interesting if Gallo's out, right? Some extra rebounds to go around. Maybe pick up some extra minutes as a big, because Gallo is a big, right? He is a big player. He's a big guy. They can go small and play him play him in smaller lineups. Shai Gilgeous, I don't think I want a ton of. Well, actually, it's interesting because Dallas, their main weakness, in my opinion, has been the wings. So it is a really good spot on paper for Shai and Schroeder. I think in my mind, I'm just I'm so used to going after I want Gallo out. You know what I mean? I want him out. If Gallo's in, it's going to piss me off and maybe not want him as much. But maybe I shouldn't ignore them on a 4-game slate, even though the prices are creeping up. But if Gallo's out, we're definitely raising Schroeder's minutes by at least 5. Shai probably goes up another 2 minutes. Paul goes up 2 or 3 minutes. Adams goes up a minute or two. And you'll see that they'll project a little bit better. But as of now, they're not projecting great. And I think that's the situation for me. They're too spread. If Gallo's there, they're a little too spread out. Even at all being mid-range prices, they're all a little too spread out for me personally. So a situation where, again, this is why it's important. Even people over at the WiseTake.com, a lot of people want the content to come out a little bit earlier. But the truth is, with the content being, the truth is with NBA, it's news is everything. And it's not regulated that well. So you constantly make a move, you might have to switch that because of the news. That's just the way it is. Just to kind of recap at this point, we looked at Harden. We talked about Harden. I'm still going to end up with a lot of Golden State. I understand that, it's projected to be a blowout. Total's not that great. Whatever. I'm going to end up with a lot of Golden State. Thin teams, that's the cheat code for me. Just a matter of which ones. Nicholas Lynn with a question. Lee or Burks? Both are shooting guard in Yahoo. Only $1 difference. That is a freaking tough question. Nicholas. I love both of those players, man, and they're the same price. If you're giving me the same price, in the past I would say Burks. Right now I'm tempted to say Lee if they're the same price because I just love I love the peripherals. I love the rebounds. But Burks is going to be more of your aggressive, offensive scoring type, right? Lee's going to take shots and all that, but his purpose is not to create for his teammates. His purpose is to just be there and do what he's got to do, whereas Burks is going to take those his purpose on the court solely is for offense. So I think I'd say Lee, but that could be more of a biased thing. But that could be a recency bias answer, to be honest with you, because I think that Lee is doing some great things. And I don't know, some of you might not know what the deal is with Damian Lee. Does anybody know what happened to him in college and all that? I've always had a soft spot for this guy because of it. He got real screwed. He did nothing wrong. He got screwed by politics. It's just the way it is in college. But for those who don't know, Damian Lee, I forget what school he started with, but for the first 3 years of his college career, he went to a smaller school and decided and he's obviously good, decided he really, really wanted to play in the NCAA tournament. Really wanted that. So he transferred to Louisville under Coach Pitino, who recruited him heavy. And I always kept an eye on Louisville college basketball program because I always liked Pitino. He's a New York guy, reminds me of the old school, reminds me of Pat Riley to a degree. Who I can't stand, but I used to love him when he was with the Knicks. Anyway, so he transferred there. That was the year when he got there. He was the best player on the team by far. And when he got there, that was when the scandal happened at Louisville. So they got disqualified from the tournament. So his season was shot from day one. Transferred there specifically to make it to the tournament. And that's what happened. So he got screwed. So I feel for him. Happy to see he ended up in the NBA anyway. Happy to see he's getting an opportunity. And the thing about Golden State, you can look at it two ways. On the one hand, you're now going to a team that was just a dynasty that is no more a dynasty. So it's oh, damn, now I'm the rebirthing of this team in a bad way. On the other hand, regardless of how bad your team is, you're still the Warriors. You still won X amount of games. People are still paying a lot of money to see your team play because they're used to it. And so in the meantime, he is getting some exposure. Right? If Damian Lee was doing this on, I don't know, even the Cavs, I guess we'd notice because nobody else is doing it. So I guess we'd notice, but it's interesting. But yeah, just to kind of recap, Golden State will be where I'm at. Which ones? I have to sort through that. I'm going to spend the next few hours trying to figure that out. I've been thinking about all that. Marquise Chris for sure. Kai Bowman, I don't see a way around me not having a lot of Kai Bowman. So I think those two guys is where it starts. Then it's a matter of comparing Draymond Green, Burks, Robinson, Lee, and deciding which ones I want the heaviest. But I'm going to have them all. It's just a matter of like at what exposures. But so they're already projecting naturally well under conservative mid projections. And then of course like Harden, right? Harden, Luka. Make your decision on DraftKings looking like Harden, on FanDuel looking like Luka. But again, for game theory purposes, you can always consider swapping that a little bit. So pretty good slate for a 4-gamer. Everybody, you enjoy your New Year's tonight. Hopefully you come check us out on the NBA Wise stream. That's why you need to be subscribed to the channel with the notifications bell clicked so you're notified when we go live. Wise stream 5:45 p.m. Somewhere between there and 5. You know how it is with Paulie. He's late as shit every day. It's just his life. But we'll go position by position, break down what we're looking at after we've done our research. And of course, as the news comes in, we try to update you guys, explain to you how we plan on reacting, take some Q&A. So make sure, don't miss it. Come check us out. Come rock with us. And if you need extra help, man, we have content. I write a core plays article with my final core, the players I'm the highest exposed to. Paulie does a DraftKings cheat sheet that highlights his cash game plays, his favorite tournament pivots, his core for tournaments. Cam does FanDuels. Again, the projections that you see up here, they'll be updated as we get closer to that time. They'll be updated all the way up until lock. And then the projections I use myself. Having a pretty good year. Now, listen. None of this humble brag shit. Yeah, I'm not the kind of person, but it's been a really good year for the WiseTake Nation in terms of NBA DFS. I myself have had an awesome year. The 150s. It's all about the max multi-entry. If you're not there, try to get there. If you can't, it's all good. We can help you. But try to get there if you can. Even if it means playing 10 cents a team instead of, 50 cents, whatever. Find a way to make it work. More teams, the better. That's going to do it. Smash the like button, guys. Subscribe. Appreciate y'all. I'll catch y'all later for the Wise stream. For myself, the entire WiseTake Nation, as always, good luck.
Yes.